Welcome to Techtastic, the podcast that explores the cutting-edge world of technology and its impact on society. New breakthroughs and developments are revolutionizing the world around us, presenting exciting opportunities as well as complex challenges. We'll explore the big ideas and key players driving these transformations, as we seek to understand the implications of these advancements for our lives, our communities, and our planet. Join us on this journey of discovery and exploration as we navigate the fascinating and ever-evolving world of technology. This is Techtastic.
Michael, welcome to It's Techtastic. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me on.
I would like it if you jump in and tell about Brandiron, what you're doing, and why you're so excited to have on the show.
So about Brandiron, we are a branding and marketing agency. We've been around for 21 years now. Previous to Brandiron, I built up an advertising and marketing agency serving the technology space. And one of my clients was part of an IPO roll-up. And so I ran a national.com brand reporting to Wall Street for a couple of years. And little did I know that one of the things I was going to be doing in my time while I was there was putting together what we call analyst presentations about our company's results, how well we're doing. And since none of us in the .com space at that time were doing well at all, I was pretty much polishing a turd every single month and every single quarter. But it was invaluable. The lessons learned when I was done serving my time in purgatory. And when I started Brandiron, I said, hey, there's a product here, and I can help other companies put together a pitch deck or a cap raise deck and really either pitch their idea or put together a capital raise deck to raise money, and it would be hugely valuable. And so we've been doing this for a number of years to the point where we've done over 250 pitch deck or capital raise decks. We've helped our clients raise more than $5 billion in capital. And it's about just telling great story about what your product or your service or your technology or your app or your SaaS, what it's going to do, how it's going to benefit those that buy or purchase your or subscribe to your company or your product, and how that's going to be a great investment for your investors.
This is timely for me. I'm in the middle of, we just closed our pre-seed and we're now starting the seed, as you do. And the pre-seed deck is pretty radically different than what you're going to do when you start going into VCs, because the pre-seed is really about who are you as a team.
Yep. And
the seed and on is about what do you do?
Yep.
And why is that important to people, right? And so we're making that transition right now. So let's use us as a test case. I'd like to talk through it with you.
That sounds great.
What we do is, I always describe it when I'm talking to the team as we are plumbing in the wall. We're part of the build and deployment pipeline for software. So we're in the software supply chain.
Yep.
By the way, this confuses the crap out of me all the time. I've spent the last 5 years in software for the supply chain, as in logistics systems. You can't see my hat, but TradeLens was one of them. So we formed Vala to solve a discrete problem. Tech debt, it's everywhere. It crushes an enterprise's ability to move at speed. And now there's this wonderful technology in the form of these large language models that makes it possible for us to do things that I've only dreamed of in the past. And so we said, we're going to go fix that. But it is plumbing in the wall.
Right.
So how when you have a product like that, which a lot of these SaaSes are, when they start off, it's really hard to say, hey, you're a non-technical person. You're the CEO of Betadine Corporation. How do I explain the very technical, the deep-rooted thing in a way that they get excited about?
That's a great question. And so I answered a couple different ways. We have to understand what the story we're trying to tell is, right? Okay, so we have this non-exciting plumbing in the wall concept. And so we can say what we do solves these problems. It solves A, B, C, or D. And this is why you may not understand what it does behind the wall, but these are the problems that we can solve. It may not solve a problem, but it may create opportunities or efficiencies. And so what we have to do is understand saying, yeah, do they really care about this plumbing and the pipes and, the mundane stuff behind the scenes? But if we told them, if you replace this plumbing behind the walls, we can increase your efficiencies by 20%, or we can make your operations accelerate at 40% faster, or we can improve your throughput at 33% faster, or whatever it is that we do and what problems we solve or what efficiencies we create to be able to help optimize your business, So a lot of times in your particular circumstance, we may not want to highlight what it is you do so much, but we may want to come back and say, here's what you're able to solve, what problems you can solve, or what efficiencies or what opportunities you create by the plumbing in the wall that you've created. And so you may not have to say all the different formed death speech about how it works, but if you told a CEO the outcomes or the problems you solve, they could get really excited.
That's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
I am a reluctant technologist. I was somebody that went into technology because I'm a serial entrepreneur, and that's where the opportunity was, applying this wonderful thing that's happening to the business world and being able to recoup value out of it. So that's what I did. It's really funny because when you talk to somebody that's in the know, that understands kind of the space you're in, like if you talk to a plumber, they get the plumbing in the wall. If you talk to the guy that's building a factory for Pepsi and they need water to come out of the walls, like he gets it. He understands why the taps have to work and why the plumbing has to work. And even when you talk to somebody who's just like, hey man, when I turn the water on in the kitchen, I need it to work. Or when I flush the toilet, I need it to work. They get that. Everybody gets that. But I always get the weirdest questions that come back up when I'm describing it to people because I know I haven't quite nailed the message.
Yeah.
I understand the value of what we're doing. I can express that. And I know that most of the people that are listening to this are in a similar spot. They're building SaaS offerings, or more than likely, they're building some AI offering that maybe they don't even really understand the problem they're solving. Because this is a distinct issue too, right? Where, hey, neat technology, I want to do something with it. And they go and create something and then look for a problem to solve with it. In fact, I think that's the vast majority of what we're seeing.
I see the same exact thing, and it drives investors crazy where I've developed this really cool, sexy thing, but okay, that's cool, but is there really a market there? Are you going to be able to get subscribers or sell this? And if you don't have a very definitive niche or ideal target customer you're going after, does this really make sense from an investment standpoint? And we see that all the time.
So when you run into that, how do you coach somebody from that to a real clear value proposition and a nice deck that they can go out and pitch?
I always tell people is start with the end in mind. If you're developing a technology, you've got to understand who's going to buy this thing and why are they going to buy it. If you don't know and can't answer that, you better design a product or a technology or an app or a SaaS that has a very clear-cut target market in mind, and knowing what either problems it's going to solve or what efficiencies it's going to create or opportunities or doors that it's going to open by providing this product or service or technology. And it's got to be pretty targeted because investors are not looking for a technology that can boil the ocean. Right? You can do everything, but you can't master one vertical or one niche or solve one problem. And that's where most technology companies or even AI companies, well, we can do so many cool things. Well, do one thing and do it really, really, really well and own that one market. And then you can expand out to other vertical markets, right? And so that's the big picture question you got to ask is start with the end in mind of who's going to buy this and why.
For us, that became very, very clear, but it took a while. Because it is kind of a boil the ocean problem when you walk in and say, we're going to solve tech debt for your entire organization. That's a boil the ocean kind of statement. But we zeroed in and said, okay, what are the biggest places of tech debt? What's the lowest hanging fruit thing that we can solve that maximizes value? What's the thing that I, as a CIO, CTO in a former life, what's the one thing that would have said, give me that? I don't care the cost. I have to have it. It's the oxygen I need to survive. What's that thing? And that's what we created. And I'm always trying to get people there on their own pitches because I hear a lot of them. This show helps in that front, but also I'm advisors to a couple funds and fun stuff like that. But the thing that I always have trouble with when I'm trying to coach somebody, I have this issue all the time. I can't tell you what it is about a pitch deck that works and doesn't, but when I see it, I know it. Either way, it's like, that's great. You guys have nailed it. And then another time I'll kind of go, I don't get it. I'm not following it, but I can't put my finger on what makes the difference.
Well, here's what we see. We see decks that are 80 to 100 slides all the time.
Oh.
And you know why they do that? Because they're just saying, here's all the great things that we do, or our technology does, or SaaS is going to do. But okay, there's that many great things. But if you're doing that many great things, you're not doing any one thing well. And so most investors look for a clear path to profitability. Okay. They want a very clear and concise path to profitability. And so you've got to figure out what 1, 2, 3, 4 things that we're solving that we can package and sell into an application or a software package or an app or whatever, right? And so they want to know this is this. And it's clear, it's concise, it's straight to the point. People can wrap their minds around it. And they want you to tell one really good story into one clearly identified market versus a great application with endless possibilities. And I know there's a market out there somewhere for it. And we see that all the time. And that's why you have these enormous decks, is because they don't know what they're trying to sell specifically and who they're trying to sell it to. And so if you understand the differentiators, we call them the value points that go into a value proposition and aimed at a specific market to start, it's hugely invaluable because the investor could wrap their head around it and they can say, hey, that makes sense. You've got a clearly identified value proposition aimed at a clearly identified market that's going to solve these problems or create these efficiencies or create these opportunities. And I could see a path to profitability within 6, 12, 18, 24, 36 months. And that makes sense. And the formula, it's about telling a really good story, right? Not only a good story about the product or the service, but telling a really good financial story that makes sense. In order to be able to tell that story, you've got to connect the dots from making an investment to getting that through production, getting into the marketplace, attracting subscribers or people to buy the application or the product or the service, and then turning a profit and needing to make that all happen within a short amount of time.
From my own experience, I just used this last week. I did a speed dating pitch session with a bunch of one-on-one, 30 minutes at a time investors for 4 hours. From the first to the second one, I made the biggest leap in my pitch because I just got rid of all the nonsense. It was like, I'm just going to say it. There's a reason I'm here. There's a reason we built this thing, and this is it. And I was blunt and I was direct. And that investor was like, I'm in. I'm so in. Like, clearly you breathe this. I'm like, yeah. And after that, that's my pitch. It just became it. I made that click in that moment, thankfully, because the first one, when I was just reading a script, I was going through my deck. I was like, click, and here's where I talk about this crap. When I did that, I watched his eyes glaze over, and I knew that was a lost opportunity, right?
Yeah. And those are sad when you see that, right?
Well, he was probably the best option to invest in us too, because he was in exactly the right space. But lost opportunity.
But you learned, right? And that we all have to learn through failure, right? And so I tell people all the time, the best way to do it is not only understand your message, understand what I call your brand story, understand it, be passionate about it, but effectively communicate it is just as important. And get your whole team, your entire team, like you said, they all have to be just as passionate about not only the opportunity, but why they're the right team at the right time to be able to do this and pull it off and produce the desired outcomes everybody wants to see.
One of the things that we talk about as part of that internal story is we've all been in the world doing this crap for a long time, right? And we know there are dragons there. We hate those dragons. We want to slay dragons. We're fucking dragon slayers. That's what we do. And so anytime somebody comes into me and they're asking for permission to slay a dragon, it's like, Steve, you're a dragon slayer. Slay the damn dragon. Grab your sword and go. That story is so part of who we are. That's how my pitch changed. I was like, here it is. This is why we're doing this. I have the top 10 people in the world in this specific space because we were so frustrated by this reality that was facing us. We said, we're going to go without salary for a year, all of us together, to go crush this problem because we hate it so much. And if we do understand that every large enterprise on the planet has the same issue, and it was that made the story sing for everybody else and people started to listen to. And I wish I could go back 7 months ago and tell myself that.
But that's what makes great brands and great companies and great pitches so dynamic is they're bought out and they're sold around the story and the opportunity. And they know how to effectively communicate that in a clear and concise fashion that's real, it's authentic, but it's also empowering, right? Investors eat that stuff up when they're going, man, that was rock solid. These guys are excited about it. I can buy into it because it's clear and concise. They have a straight path to where they want to go. It makes sense, and I'm buying in, and I want to do this thing.
Exactly right. No, we're getting short on time, and I want to make sure that I give everybody a way to connect with you or find out more. And so I know brandiron.net is a great resource for people that want to find out more process to build brands and drive revenue. But you also do consulting.
Yeah, I do consulting. So you can do brandiron.net. We also have capraisedeck.com, or you can also connect with me, Michael Doyle, on LinkedIn as well, too, with Brandiron.
Thank you so much for being on the show. It was lovely chatting with you.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Techtastic. I want to thank you personally for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Until then, keep exploring and stay curious.